Hello everyone. Today I'll be answering the big question, how does exercise affect our pulse rate? So, um, Stay tuned. Alright, so how does exercise affect our pulse rate? Basically, today I'll investigate the various effects of exercises on our pulse rate. And I actually have a prediction. I predict that after exercising, my pulse rate will increase. And I predict that the pulse rate will be higher if the exercise is more intense. I actually think this because our muscles need extra oxygen while exercising, so that must mean that the heart starts pumping faster, and that must result in an increase in the pulse rate. Now, for the variables, my independent variable is that I'm going to change the exercise each time. So it could be star jumps or jogging on the spot, for example. And then my dependent variable is that I'm going to be measuring my pulse rate. So whether it's resting or after each of the exercises. And my control variable is that I'll keep the duration of the exercises the same every time. So each exercise will be 3 minutes long. So the equipment I need is pretty simple, just my phone for the timer, a yoga mat, and obviously myself. And this is basically a diagram that I drew of how my equipment will be set up. Alright, now I'll explain the step-by-step method of how I'll actually carry out my experiment. Psych! Actually, I'm not going to do a voiceover of the step-by-step methods because I've typed them in a lot of detail. So if you guys want to see it, you can just pause the video and read through it at your own pace. Otherwise, let's move on. To make my experiment safe, I will do the exercises in an open space on top of a yoga mat so it prevents any kind of injuries, And I will use my phone for the timer, so I'll make sure that my phone is on a table or like a stool, which is quite a few feet away from me to prevent hitting myself on the table or cracking my phone or other kind of fragile equipment. Now, obviously, to make my experiment successful, I must keep it a fair test. To keep it a fair test, I'm going to have one independent variable only in my experiment, which is obviously the exercise that I'm doing. I'm also going to keep the duration of each of the exercises 3 minutes long, and the gap between each round of exercise will be 5 minutes long, basically to just steady my heart rate back to normal. And I will repeat each exercise 3 times to get an average, and it will make my results accurate.
2 hours later.
I put all of my pulse rates into a table of results, and in that table it consisted of my resting pulse rate and all the exercises that I did, like jogging on the spot or star jumps or high knees or lunges, and I put the average in this table of results as well. After that, with all the data that I had collected, I made a graph, which is my bar chart. The reason I decided to make my graph a bar chart was because it makes it easier to compare different sets of data between the different exercises that I did in just a glance. It also shows the big changes in my pulse rate. In conclusion, my results show that exercise causes an increase in the pulse rate. I think this is because the heart is a pump that circulates blood and with it oxygen, as well as nutrients throughout the body. And when you exercise, the muscles require more oxygen and nutrients to basically use as a fuel. So the heart beats faster to power that increased circulation, which causes the increase in the pulse rate. My prediction was because I predicted that after exercising, my pulse rate would increase, which is what happened. I think my experiment was successful because I repeated each exercise 3 times and got an average. So this obviously made my experiment more accurate. Not to mention my experiment was done on real-time basis, which is the best way to get results. Also, the experiment was a fair test as I kept the duration of the exercises and the intervals the same, so no other factors could have ruined my experiment. I only changed the type of exercise and activity, so I only changed one thing. To improve my experiment though, I could use a pulse rate calculating device like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, because these devices are probably more accurate because it could reduce the chances of miscounting the beats per minute. My results could probably be useful for health conscious people who may use it as a sort of a benchmark for improving their own health and well-being.
One, two, three.